Okay, let's try and unpack this. The recent U.S. and Israeli military operations against Iran's nuclear facilities. You're probably seeing the headlines, maybe feeling a bit overwhelmed by all the conflicting reports. Our mission here is simple. Cut through that noise, give you a clear, well-informed sense of what happened, the damage, and, well, the bigger picture implications. So, the U.S. officially jumped in on June 21st. Operation Midnight Hammer, they called it.
hmm Joining Israel's campaign, which had actually started back on June 13th.
And this was big. We're talking 125 aircraft,
Yeah.
including those specialized B-2 bombers.
Right, carrying the MOPs,
Yeah,
the massive ordnance penetrators.
30,000 pounds. People call them bunker busters.
Basically, yeah. And crucially, these are U.S. bombs.
Believed to be the only things that could possibly reach those really deep Iranian sites.
And their use signals something very specific, doesn't it? It shows the intent was to hit those hardened, buried facilities. It's a major statement, but it also underlines just how tough these targets are.
Okay, but here's where it gets, well, really interesting. The damage assessments.
Oh, yeah. All over the place.
President Trump came out strong, said things like totally obliterated, completely and totally obliterated, called it a spectacular military success.
Very definitive language.
But then you have this preliminary classified U.S. intelligence report from the DIA.
Right, the Defense Intelligence Agency.
And it painted a very different picture. It suggested, get this, Iran's program was set back by less than 6 months.
Less than 6 months. Compared to totally obliterated, that's quite a gap.
Huge gap. The report mentioned limited damage at Fordow, centrifuges largely intact.
And it even suggested some enriched uranium might have been moved before the strikes hit certain locations.
No, the White House pushed back hard, called that leaked DIA report flat out wrong.
And there's apparently an FBI investigation into the leak itself now.
Even General Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, initially said extremely severe damage, but then later walked it back, saying it was way too early to really know Iran's remaining capabilities.
What's fascinating here is just the sheer range of views. You have independent experts, people like Jeffrey Lewis, Kenneth Pollack. They're pretty skeptical. They're saying Iran's program is far from destroyed, that the deep knowledge Iran has makes it incredibly difficult, maybe impossible, to just wipe out militarily.
And Israel. Their initial assessment, even before the U.S. operation, was maybe a 2-year setback.
Right, but even they apparently found less damage at Fordow than they might have expected. The key thing really is verification. It's just incredibly hard to know for sure.
So let's look maybe a bit closer at the main sites, see why assessments might differ so much.
Good idea.
First, Natanz. That's Iran's biggest uranium enrichment place.
Right.
Satellite images, they definitely show significant damage above ground. And the IAEA, the international agency, their assessment was that the underground halls were severely damaged, if not destroyed.
And Natanz has history, of course. Remember Stuxnet?
Oh, yeah, the cyber attack back in 2006, the virus that messed up their centrifuges.
Exactly. So it's been a target before.
Then you've got Fordow. This is the really tough one.
The fortress, basically.
Oh,
Buried deep inside a mountain.
Like 260 feet under rock and soil, they estimate. The U.S. bunker busters definitely hit the area. Satellite images show 6 big craters, ash.
Impact, definitely. But the question is, damage to the facility itself underground.
That's still unknown. Iran maintains no irreversible damage.
And interestingly, the belief for Fordow, specifically for these strikes, is that the enriched material was probably not moved out beforehand.
Unlike maybe some other sites or earlier warnings.
Right, which again shows Iran's strategy. Build deep, build hard, make it survivable. It's like trying to assess a vault's contents by looking at scratches on the door. Very difficult.
And finally, Isfahan. That's the uranium conversion complex.
Different kind of target, different approach.
Yeah, the U.S. used Tomahawk cruise missiles there, not the bunker busters. Apparently, it's even deeper.
Or perhaps the targets there didn't require that kind of penetration.
Israeli strikes damaged buildings, including the main conversion facility, but reports suggest the actual nuclear fuel stockpile there was spared. So, you put all this together, what does it really tell you? It seems these attacks, sophisticated as they were, show the real limits of trying to stop a program like this with military force alone, especially when it's this fortified and dispersed. And we have to talk about the human cost, too. It's significant.
Absolutely. Often gets lost in the technical details.
Reports indicate over 600 people killed in Iran, thousands injured. And retaliation led to 28 deaths in Israel.
Tragic numbers.
Plus, the targeted killing of scientists. Over 10, including former heads of Iran's Atomic Energy Organization, university people.
Some argue that targeting personnel, like Elliot Abrams suggested, could delay things by removing expertise.
But again, that deep knowledge argument comes up. Can you really eliminate the know-how?
And connecting this to the bigger picture, there are other risks, right? Nuclear safety expert Aaron Dumbacher pointed out that while hitting buried enrichment sites might have low radiation risk, hitting a reactor, like bush shear, that's a whole different ballgame. Could be like Fukushima or Chernobyl. Huge contamination risk.
Wow.
Plus, chemical hazards at some sites, like hydrofluoric acid, dangerous for workers.
And what about that enriched uranium? They had about 400 kilograms.
That's the estimate. And if some was moved, as the DIA report suggested for some locations, where is it now? That's a big open question. And think about non-proliferation. What message does this send? Could states without nuclear weapons start thinking, maybe being transparent with inspectors isn't worth it if we might get bombed anyway?
That's a chilling thought. Iran's reaction has been, predictably, strong condemnation. They've called for a UN Security Council meeting.
And stated they reserve all options, which is diplomatic code for potential retaliation.
Experts are definitely warning about escalation. Attacks on U.S. bases, maybe asymmetric stuff like cyber attacks, terrorism.
It could spiral fast. And Iran's parliament endorsing the idea of closing the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, that would have massive global economic consequences. Oil prices, shipping.
Stephen A. Cook put it starkly. We're basically at the precipice of potentially a conflict with Iran.
So clearly, the dust hasn't settled. The true damage, the long-term fallout, it's all still very much unfolding, and people see it very differently.
Which really brings us to a crucial question, something for you, our listener, to think about. Given these wildly conflicting assessments of how effective the strikes actually were, and given the very real danger of escalation, what does this whole incident tell us about using military force to stop nuclear programs? And maybe more broadly, what does it mean for the future of trying to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons globally?
Definitely something to mull over as you continue to stay well informed. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.